So this is my professional teaching portfolio that I made on Wix. I've divided this portfolio into 4 sections. So there's effective teaching, self-assessment, goals, and evidence. And under each, if you just click on them, it'll take you to my effective teaching statement, where I've talked about how planning, assessment, motivation, and communication are very important, and what I would like to implement into the classroom, so you can read about that. And then under that is my concept map for effective teaching. So that brings you to the group concept map that I did with my peers, although it's really hard to read. I apologize. Over to self-assessment. If you click on self-assessment, it'll bring you to a little blurb I've written about how it's defined as the process of looking at oneself in order to assess aspects that are important to one's identity. And I talk about how this is extremely important being an educator. But I've also attached my self-assessment charts to see the growth that I've come from the first self-assessment before practicum, demonstrating the initial feelings I had about the teaching competencies, and then you can see in the second self-assessment what I've achieved being at practicum and the new goals I've set for the next year. Under goals, it'll bring you to, there's my goals. So from the first semester practicum, the 3 goals I had and I was able to achieve, and then for next year, the 3 other goals I've set that I'm still working on mastering, although I know this takes tons of practice. Those are my goals set for the 13-week practicum. And if we go to evidence, you see I've listed a bunch of evidence, so motivation, my LES, my lesson planning, my assessments, my instructional strategies addressing the individual needs, classroom design, and management techniques. So we're just going to take a look first at motivation in the classroom. So I just wrote a bit about how using extrinsic and intrinsic motivation has helped my class. So they were motivated to have good grades, they were motivated to share their games with others and show the pride in their work at the end. So as my LES was talking about creating board games, they had to create their own picture book, so that was really fun. So my LES. I've just taken the template 3 of my LES, so this is the culminating task part, and I've linked it to the teaching competency 3, planning learning situations that provide opportunities to apply competencies in different contexts. So we had a write, do, say, and they were able to take different competencies and apply them to different things they did. My lesson planning, so here's just one example of a lesson plan I've written. You can see it includes the objective, the rationale, the materials, the resources, the actual agenda of the lesson, and then the adaptations and extensions and evaluation that you would implement into a regular lesson plan. But I just find this template really helps me and allows me to see everything that I need to see right away. And it's a good way to keep everything organized. For the assessment, I took a rubric that I did and a board game checklist which was created with my classroom. So this just kind of demonstrates how I implement assessment, but also how my students are able to help with what they're being assessed on. Instructional strategies. So we did quite a bit of instructional strategies in my class. So I used Think, Pair, Share. And I have a little diagram there to explain what Think, Pair, Share is. I did a lot of modeling techniques. So like we'll do it together, and then I want you, as being the students, to do it alone. And then we did the graffiti brainstorms a lot of the time, where we give them guided headlines to do their brainstorming, or we do concept maps, that kind of thing, which was very beneficial for their learning. And addressing individual needs. One way I did this basically was through my accommodations and adaptations to fit the lesson plans that I was doing. So I would have them use the iPads at the iPad station. I would have them take extra time on their work, take it home for the weekend if they needed to. They could use words from their books, their picture books, to incorporate on their board games. And they could use some pictures to kind of get an idea to incorporate on their board games. And then they could do individual check-ins with me along the way and ask me questions. And it was really nice because it allowed for bonds between us to happen as well. Classroom design. So this was my classroom and how it was set up. So it was very large. There was 2 classrooms actually. So we have to the left the actual classroom, the desk, the smartboard, the whiteboard, and then to the right we have where the couches are, where the larger group tables are, more for collaboration. There's lots of books over there, and it was really nice because I only had 13 grade 6 students, so we were really able to spread out when we were working on big projects and working on our board games. And last was management techniques. So I used a variety of management techniques. I would demonstrate the behavior I wanted to see, so having the students raise their thumb to show me that they were done work, so then they weren't interrupting the rest of their peers, raising their hand when they needed to talk, something as simple as engaging the students through telling them that they're going to be telling them that they're going to be using these board games and playing with the grade 3s, so that was very helpful. And it was a lot of fun to watch at the end, them express their pride. So yeah, that's my professional teaching portfolio, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.